later in the process, but out of respect for everybody's time and it being Friday afternoon, I want to start on time. We're a little late actually in starting, but we get started. And what I'd like to do is let you know there's a video on the screens over here. And so if you can't see one of the screens, you need to move so that you can see them because the screens are small. And in fact, I'm going to move all the way to the other end of the dais here so we can discuss this. But what we're doing today is we're going to talk about the criminal justice e-filing project. And we're fortunate to have a number of individuals, and I think this may be still on mute here. We have Jim Pingle from URL Integration. They were the contractor to assist in the construction of this system, which was a pilot project initially and applied to a limited number of counties to try to integrate an e-filing system using their existing systems and integrate those and bridge those together. We are honored to have Joe Hood. I think you're going to take us through the presentation. Is that?
I'm going to do an introduction, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And get some assistance on the presentation that we have.
And Terry, thank you, and Director Keenan's here as well. Nellie, I see Nellie walked in. Also, we have other individuals from Judge Emerson. Is he here? Hey, Judge, thank you for being here. Mike Curtis, and then Greg Allen. I think he's been assisting. There he is. Thank you, Mike. So what we'll do is I'll let Joe give more presentations or introductions to individuals, and then we'll let you turn over the presentation. And Jim, you're off of mute, so if you do talk, you'll be able to be heard by everyone in the room and then everyone on the internet who may be paying attention to the show. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. Thank you, Jim.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for this time. We really appreciate the opportunity to present this demonstration of where we stand from the Criminal Justice Exchange Board on the pilots for Criminal Justice Exchange that we started, I guess now a little close to 2 years ago, where we started moving forward with the integration in our partnership with the Georgia Technology Authority and with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation as sort of the core group. And then, of course, we added all of our state agency partners who are represented on that exchange board, including the Prosecuting Attorneys Council. And Pete Scandalakis did join us, and thankful for his presence here today. So that board is comprised of those 3 core members, and then we also have a representative from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, from the Department of Corrections, from the Department of Community Supervision, and then we have 1 sheriff, 1 clerk, and 1 county commissioner, and they are representatives of the local pilot projects that we have started initiating this criminal justice exchange. So as you're aware, Mr. Chairman, in the past we've come forward with appropriations 2 different times to fund the pilots and to begin to fund the statewide criminal justice exchange at the local level. And just as a reminder, basically what we are doing is we are creating a hub using the Georgia Technology Authority's services to transfer arrest data and criminal disposition data at the time of arrest to the prosecutor, to the public defender, and to the court case management system at the court, where today much of that in most counties is done by paper and by hand delivery and rekeying. And then we are creating an electronic system of that case file so that no one is pre-populating as you go forward with changes and so forth, to really remove all the redundancy and to make this a more efficient and effective criminal justice system statewide. The manner in which this is done is we've utilized GTA and the authority as the purchasing authority to go out and reach to all of the vendors within the state who have case management systems. So GTA assisted us in that prospect, and everyone who had a footprint, either a sheriff's case management system at the jail, a court clerk's case management system at the Superior Court. We already had statewide systems with Prosecuting Attorneys Council and the public defenders, and of course GBI. But all the local case management systems were given the opportunity to respond, and we reached out to them and certified through GTA a scope of work so that we could begin to electronically exchange data in each system as we began to pilot. So we have all of those today certified with a statement of work for that initial scope. And these first 4 counties, we've actually are at the point where we've exchanged and we've done the pilot. And we're going to demonstrate that with a voiceover of where we did this live, and Jim taped this and edited it for make it more concise and for a presentation to show you how it works with the different county partners. And we're fortunate to have one of our board members, the Forsyth County Clerk, here with us today, and he hopefully can provide insight for that as well if need be. But I think, I hope you're impressed by it. I know that I am. It's been probably over a decade that I've been involved with Terry in different aspects of trying to get to a stage where we can automate. I really think that this is the path forward. We've talked about trying to do one system for the whole state, and it's just not conducive to local control and what we have in our state with 159 counties and constitutional officers. So I really think this approach of going to the vendors and then having them on board and certified and under contract is the path. Just to give you an example, once we do these 4, my understanding is we can replicate that up to into as many as 80 counties because we'll already have the same vendors in those counties. So it's really just a matter of training and tweaking for this to roll out into a next phase that we're facing. So with that, hopefully I didn't leave anything out. What we have is a demo, and I'm going to let Terry kick that off.
We're going to start this up and let it roll, and then we'll take questions and comments afterwards.
Hello, this is Jim Pingle. I work with the State of Georgia's Criminal Justice E-Filing Project, or CJEP. I have several of our local partners with me here today. What we want to do is provide you a brief demonstration of how CJEP is connecting information systems across the criminal justice system. They are going to show you how they will be using CJEP for electronic filing of documents in criminal court cases. Note that as we take a look at their screen and they describe for us what they're doing, they will be using the systems that they've been using in their day-to-day work, in some cases for years already. What CJEP has done is connected the systems together so that the information will flow seamlessly from one system to the other as a case makes its way through the criminal justice process. The presenters will talk about benefits in two general areas. One, of course, the efficiencies, the steps they will save, the time they'll save, walking paper back and forth up and down the elevators in a courthouse or across the street. The second benefit you're going to see here is the improvements in data quality and the opportunities to improve the completeness and the accuracy of the information as it flows through the criminal justice system. So without further ado, I want to turn this over to Robert Gardner, who is an assistant district attorney in Dawson County. Robert?
Thank you. As you can see here, this is what we call our tracker system. For prosecutors like myself, tracker is kind of our information hub, how we can keep track of all of our cases and specific information about what the cases are, what the statuses are, what the charges are, who our witnesses are, all that sort of stuff. As you can see right here, we have a sample case for Anna Mull here, who has a warrant for criminal trespass, and I'll walk through how Tracker works and how everything gets integrated. So when we have a starting charge, what we're able to do then is take the charge, and if that's the right charge, edit what the charging language is. I'm not going to go try to do too much in today's purposes, but basically this gives us the ability to edit what the property was that was damaged, who the victim was, and how much that property was damaged. Going through here, we then create the actual accusation, or what the charging document is, that gets submitted to the clerk's office and ultimately to the court. Tracker allows us to actually go into a Word format like you're seeing here and actually do some editing as to exactly how formatting is and all the language that we have it just how we want it when we submit it. Now, normally, the process, this is the actual document that we end up printing out, having to walk down to the clerk's office and have it be filed there. That has to come back to us and copies are then forwarded to the court. With the e-filing procedure, after I've edited how I wanted it to and saved the changes, instead of printing it out and doing the walking, all I have to do here is hit e-file. And what the e-filing does is I send it, and that automatically electronically sends it to the clerk's file. And if I want to make sure that as it says, it's been filed, but if I want to check the status of it, I have the ability to go through and Tracker without doing anything else to check to see here that it made sure that it got filed, that's the right type of document, and that it's been received by the clerks.
Great. Thank you, Robert. Let's see that information as it shows up on the court clerk side. I'm going to pass it over now to Diane Avery from the Dawson County Superior Court Clerk's Office.
Thank you. And here we'll see that we are in our system, which is ICON. We will go over and find where it's been filed. We do our search, just a general search. And here it is. 11-9 shows an accusation. We can look at the document and verify everything, that everything looks good, the charges match, and then we will create a case if everything looks good. We need to update first. That is Superior Criminal Case. And add the information such as the term and so forth and save. And then we will create case. It's working. And like Robert said, he would bring the original accusation or indictment down. We would stamp it and then we would file it into the system. We'd have to scan it in. This way it just automatically, once it's finished, it will automatically put it into the case. And then the case number is the new case number. We click on it and it takes us straight to her case, that particular case. And here is the accusation. And we would have to, and here's the document.
And Diane, you'll note the file stamp.
Yes. It is here on the upper right-hand corner. It gives us the information that we would generally stamp it manually with one of our stamps with the information. It gives the date that it was received, the case number, the judge, and so forth.
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
So this case is now set up in the official docket in Dawson County for other parties to file on. Isabel, did you note the 2018-CR-0487 as the case number?
All right.
While Isabel gets ready to file from the entry of appearance for a public defender, going to push this back over to Robert Gardner. And Robert, you can show us how things have changed on the tracker side after Diane accepted that case.
Sure. So you'll see now, before it had over on the status, it just said received. You can see now that after Diane accepted versus rejecting it, that I have the status as accepted. So I know that there wasn't any problems, that it doesn't need to go be looked at. We also have here in the download, I can now check to see what my accusation looks like. And you can see that's the same accusation that I got sent. So that way I have some assurances that I didn't accidentally send the wrong accusation through and that everything matches up.
Thanks, Robert. Isabel, are you ready to file an appearance on that case?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, wonderful. I will pass it over now to Isabel Chavez with the Dawson County Public Defender's Office. Isabel uses the JCATS case management system, as most public defender's offices do in the state. Okay, go ahead, Isabel. Thank you.
All right, so I went in there and I changed the case number I'm adding the attorney, Jed Carter, because he's in our system already, and I'm going to click yes for them to generate a notice of appearance. So I'll wait for that. Let me see. There it is. So it actually went ahead and submitted it for me.
And, right, you can highlight the e-file status to the far right that says submitted. So, yep,
Yes.
great. Okay.
And there's the entry, notice of appearance, with the signature attached.
Okay. So let's go back over to Diane Avery in Justin Powers' office. Anything that's e-filed is going to show up in Diane's list of cases or filings to import. And Diane, let's reject this filing because you have the ability to either accept or reject anything that's being filed into your office.
Here it showed the date that we received it, 11/9, and it shows an appearance. We can look at, there's the case number that we have just opened up or made changed to a CR number. We can view the document, the notice of appearance. We look at everything. We check the case number, defendant's name, so forth. And you want me to reject this one or accept it?
Yes, please. If you could reject, then we can show
Okay.
Isabel's ability to refile that.
So if we find an error, we have the option to reject. We're going to reject it, and we're just going to say that the case name doesn't match up. And reject. And it should send a notification to them, to the public
Okay.
defender's office.
So this is really part of CJEP's secret sauce here. This is part of the thing that makes this valuable to these practitioners is the ability for the message responses to flow back to a filer, to anybody submitting that information. If there's an error, if there's something rejected, or as you've seen before, if something's successfully processed, CJEP closes the loop on every communication, every piece of information that's flowing from one system to another to ensure that it has either been processed or that an error or a reason for being rejected is going to be addressed and corrected and filed properly. Robert, I'll turn it back over to you. And then Keith and Emily, we'll turn over to you shortly.
So after I've completed my motion and formatted it how I want to, see over here, I have the same option to e-file it as I did my accusation. I can go here, click over to e-file, send the file. And again, just like the accusation, if I go over here, I can check to see that my motion has been sent off, and that is pending a review by the clerk's file.
Try to see it better here.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, we are going to change venue now. I'm going to pass this over to the Department of Community Supervision. Local probation parole officers are also able to file a number of different types of filings. But we are going to, since we have more than one county going live on CJEP already, going to send this over to Forsyth County. Department of Community Supervision will file a document or two in the Forsyth Clerk of Courts, and then we'll turn it over to them to take a look at e-filing review in a different clerk's office, just to give you a flavor of some variations from one county to another. Keith?
Hey, good morning, everybody. So I'm in the Georgia Reentry Portal, and this is the case management system for the Department of Community Supervision. And I'm in our probation termination module. So this is where our users, our officers would go in to create a motion to have the probation terminated. So I'm at the stage right now where That motion is actually creating the system. I'm going to show you this. This is the motion that's created in the system, and at this point, our officers will sign it, and depending on the type of motion, sometimes the officer will have to get the district attorney's office to sign off and other parties. But at the point where all the signatures are ascertained on the document, our officers will load that document back into the system, and they will come here, and now they're ready to e-file it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on e-file termination. I'm going to choose file, and this file would be actually the document with the signatures on it. So I'm loading it in. I'm going to say yes, submit for e-filing, and I'm going to confirm it. So at this point, the document has been submitted for e-filing. It's in a submitted status, and now we'll just wait to hear back from the court. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the presentation over to Forsyth.
Okay, I will pass this over to Emily Caldwell in Greg Allen's Superior Court Clerk's Office in Forsyth County. Emily?
Hi, this is Forsyth County's e-file Georgia with Odyssey, and as you can see, the motion that was sent by DCS has showed up in our job queue, and we can process this in multiple different ways. For this particular document, it needs a signature from a judge before we need to accept it into the case management system. So when we review it, we have the option to forward this to a judge's queue. At that time, our judges in Superior Court and their staff will have the same viewing capabilities, but only view a judge's queue. So they would be able to review the document just as I have and sign, go to the judge's queue, sign the motion, send it back to the clerk's office, and I'll just do my signature. Forward it back to our queue for review. And at that time, the clerk's office can accept the filing, and it sends a copy to the judges and to DCS. Oh, I apologize. We have our filing back. And as you can see, we have our judge's signature, and we can accept or reject. And at this time, it also goes directly into our case management system.
And then, Emily, as you show that, if you could just wrap us up a little bit here with the efficiencies that you'll see, not only for the local DCS office, but also for yourself and your office.
Of course.
Things that we filed.
Typically, a document like this, the DCS would have to come to the clerk's office or come to the courthouse. We would have to put the document in a judge's box. The mail delivery would have to take the document to the judge's office. After the judge's office reviewed it and signed it, they would have to send it back to DCS, who would then bring it to the clerk's office and file it. So it's a very long process that can end in 5 minutes. And there's, ample document types and opportunities that could be used the same way with DCS. And we would have to be entering the document, search the case, make sure all the data is correct and the case number lines up with the name, and scan the image in.
Yep, and again, we see on 11/9/2018 that petition was filed. Thank you, Emily. Okay, with the acceptance of that motion, let me pass this back over to the Department of Community Supervision, and we can see that that filing as well has been accepted in their system.
So we're back in the Georgia reentry portal, And you can see now that probation termination, that e-file status has now changed to accepted by court. And we also have the return documents. So I'm going to open up the document that was electronically sent back to us. And you can see on the document, it has the Forsyth County stamp, as well as the signature that Emily put on the document before she approved it, just like the judge would have. So you can see we got the document that was modified in her system, was sent back, and now resides in our system as well.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks to everyone who has helped demonstrate the capabilities here of the CJEP program. Let me wrap up by saying that what you've seen today is criminal e-filing on criminal cases from public sector filers into the court system. The CJEP project continues to expand to span the entire criminal justice process from booking and filing and creation of new charges all the way through to disposition, sentencing, and community supervision. So stay tuned for many more efficiency gains and many more exchange points in that entire criminal justice flow. I want to thank all of our presenters, and I want to wish you all the best in continuing to use the CJEP project in your systems. Thanks, folks.
Okay. From this point forward, the questions about the project, the program that we just saw. I know some of the members joined us a little bit later in the program, and bottom line is that you can see the connectivity between all the various elements of the criminal justice system, as from filing to the accusation all the way through to ultimate disposition of the case. Are there questions from members of the committee? I have a few myself. The ones that came to mind was, the first one was very minor. Can the judge, I assume the judge can edit the orders and revise the orders, those built into the system so that they're form orders that they can be changed? Do we know? Who's going to talk on those? Jim's going to talk on it? All right, Jim, you're up from St. Louis, Missouri, right?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I profusely apologize. Wish I could have been there. Hope the demo gave you a good picture of what we're doing here.
I'm looking around the room, and everybody's looking at me. I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to be able to answer these questions myself. So. All right, Jim, go ahead.
Okay, so the question was, is the judge going to be able to edit the orders that are coming in? And I'm going to give my answer and then turn it over to Judge Emerson to fill in anything that I missed. But first part of the answer is each county is going to be able to alter these documents, modify them so that they fit the kind of the format, the specifications that the judges require in that county or in that circuit, in that jurisdiction. So the forms that you saw can certainly be specific to a circuit or a county. What you saw were some of our public sector partners, public defenders, community supervision, prosecutors, filing a motion which would include basically a proposed order. My understanding is the judge would be able to make the appropriate modifications to that proposed order to make it something that he or she would be able to sign as an order of the court, of the bench. So I believe the short answer is yes. Judge Emerson, anything to add to that? And again, Chairman Welch, too, did that answer hit the mark of what you were asking?
Yes. So they can alter the document, the form documents internal to their chambers And so that it's, I have a concern here with it in terms of security and judges' orders miraculously appearing even though a judge may or may not have actually executed the order, or the order is not the same as what the judge intended.
All right.
So in some cases, I mean, clearly the document's PDF and it's file stamped. Yeah, I mean, the judge has a couple of options, right? Kicking something back through that rejection process that we talked about. Certainly the motion that's filed, the judge has the ability to add the information that they want to, and that make that a court order. So actually docketing the order that results from that motion, that proposed order, is is what the judge does. So it's kind of a second step of that process. That makes sense. So the security, the integrity of the document coming in is certainly protected. But again, it's like any order. The judge is going to order what's decided in court.
All right,
based on what was proposed.
Judge Emerson, you want to weigh in?
All right, what you saw was something I do every day. I get probation and revocation petitions in a hand-carried file, and along with probation warrants. Every day I get 3 of those, about 3 a day. They come, somebody drives to the courthouse, brings them to us. I look at each one, I sign them. My assistant actually scans the warrants into the database so that we can keep up with them. And then they actually come and pick it up. So it's a very intensive, in terms of the Department of Community Supervision, it's a process that we're going to be able to replace a lot of time that some probation officer is spending walking those things through. And as I say, I get 3 of those files a day. The reason that revocation petition that he demonstrated comes to me is not that they need my permission to file to revoke somebody's probation, but I set the hearing date for that. And so when that petition got to me, I would look at it, look at my calendar, and usually fill in the date, setting the hearing. Now, I don't need to edit that. That's standard language, but we do need to add the date, and then we would add the signature, and then it's got to go back into the queue, the process, so that it gets served on the defendant, the DA, and everybody can get a copy of it. So those have to be editable, if nothing else, to add text. Now, if they're coming in as PDFs, I'm not sure if, we've actually bought Adobe, the full license of Adobe, and if it comes to me as a PDF, I believe I've got software to edit it. Now, if it's not locked. But for routine orders, and this is what this would be ideal for, there won't be any need to do anything other than add the date, sign it, and it's gone. So and if that's something that I need to add something to, I'd probably just write the order myself, because I'm a judge that writes my own orders.
And if you're not a public defender, how do you access the system to be a part of it and to receive notices?
Okay, Jim can answer that better than me, but a lot of the way we're going to notify lawyers, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be through their official email address. The problem is notifying pro se people, and a lot of times in criminal world, we have to send it to the defendant. But we do that anyway. We just have to mail it out to the defendant if we don't, because we don't always, John Doe doesn't always have an email address on file that we can use. So there would still be some mailing, but with attorneys, they would get the notice electronically in their inbox, and they would get it faster. Jim, can you answer?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that is the attorneys would get that notification via email once they are electronically filing. So an electronic filer will have an email on file, and that'll be returned to them. So, Judge, I think that's part of the rulemaking that's forthcoming with criminal e-filing, but we do have a notification process set up that's triggered by a filing. Once the filing is approved, accepted, signed by the judge, accepted by the clerk, then the filer will have a system, or in their system, the filer will be able to send out the notification to any relevant party that has an email. That'll include the public defender or the prosecutor on any case. And again, when there is the capability to deliver an email to the private attorney, if they're privately represented, sending that email. So that part's going to expand as we expand the criminal e-filing sphere, I think, in the state. But the design includes that capability.
Are you able to track those that access documents so that should someone access a file or documents that he or she should not have privy to, are we able to go back and track who that was that accessed the file, may have altered a document?
That is going to be, so yes, we're able to track how the messages flow back and forth between systems. In terms of access to the documents, that's something that remains in control of the local clerk, the other owners of the information. CJEP helps the information flow back and forth, but as far as how they're stored and how they're accessed, that remains the local control, and it remains part of that existing information system, whether that's the ICON case management system that Judge Emerson uses and that Justin Power in Dawson County uses, or whether it's that Odyssey system that you saw at the end of the demo. We move the documents back and forth securely. We do not change or take away any of the discretion that the local authorities have in sharing the information and marking that as public or secured access. Does that make sense?
Let me add to that. Once the document hits our database, it's CJEP's out of the picture. It's the local case management system that's got the document, the filing. And our database, the ICON database, is a web-based system, and the clerk allows people to sign in and come in and look at it. Do we have the ability to track people? We do know when people sign in. I don't know that we can tell what they do. Those documents are public. They're, if they're filed and they're part of our docket, they're public documents. We've never felt a need to go in and figure out who was in there or what they were looking at. But that is a local case management function. CJEP's out of the picture. It's a delivery, it's a document creation system from what I've seen, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but it's a document creation system that's going to make our public defenders and prosecutors very much more efficient. And then it delivers those documents to the courts in a very efficient way. So that's what it does. It doesn't track all this stuff.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's really a good way of putting it, Judge, that once the document's delivered, CJEP is out of the picture. So there's those efficiency gains. The other important part is all the information that you saw that's on a document also gets written into the database system. So that's going to include case numbers, defendant identification, the tracking numbers of each charge. So there's a big improvement in the accuracy, completeness of the information too. We take away the not only the time that it takes to rekey all that information as it goes from system to system, but the chance for error, the chance for transposing 2 digits in a 9-digit charge or offense tracking number. You'll see those information quality and completeness improvements as well.
Let me add something else, because I've been watching on the civil side of e-filing, and one of the problems with civil e-filing is it's really just a glorified delivery system. It sends us a PDF of a bunch of files. From what I understand, Jim, and correct me if I'm wrong, the documents you see are XML formatted documents, and what those are is machine readable, so that those documents, unlike the civil papers we're getting, when they hit our databases are going to be able to receive data out of those documents in an extremely highly efficient way, and it's going to make the courts far more efficient. And it's taking advantage of a technology that's been around almost more than 20 years that we're just now getting to. But this is what e-filing should be eventually, and that is a highly efficient way of populating very data critical fields, because every one of these criminal defendants charges, we have to have that OTN. I'm looking over at Terry Fisher over here. we have to have that OTN, and it's very important that it's key. I was sentencing a guy the other day, and they said the OTN didn't match on my sentence order, so we fixed it right there. But it's very critical that be by transmitting that electronically, it gets it in, and it takes care of other problems with data on criminal justice information. So, as I say, this is an extremely highly efficient system that's going to help the courts, the public defenders, and the prosecutors because of those technological efficiencies. It goes beyond just what we do in the civil e-filing world.
Yeah.
Jim,
thanks,
is any of
Judge.
that wrong?
Yeah, you know, the information moving back and forth is a little more nuanced in the demo. You know, in the criminal justice system, we focus on documents because that's how we've moved information and knowledge back and forth. But it really is about every little piece of information that's represented on that document. And so, in addition to the document itself, that's exactly right, Judge. We move each piece of information: defendant last name, defendant first name, those all important OTN numbers. And those are actually stored in the system. Once the clerk approves them, remember again, it doesn't just get smashed directly into the database system. There's that clerk review process to make sure that it's accurate. A little bit of a human review, a set of eyeballs on it, but no rekeying of information. So the efficiency and the data accuracy gains hopefully come through in the demo. But again, you know, we tend to focus on the documents. It's the little bits of information that are represented on that document that are important.
And I reiterate, that's where the efficiencies really show up, is you're not rekeying all this little bits of information.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? No. Okay. Well, let me say to Terry and GBI and all those that are working on this system, CJCC and everyone else that's been involved. And Judge, thank you very much for being here. Jim, thank you for calling in and making yourself available to us here in Georgia. We appreciate the presentation, the information, and the video was helpful to give you a kind of a real world example of how this should work, or is working, I should say, in those counties that are doing it now. The request is a budgetary request to expand this system, this essential bridge portal and document construction system to cover more counties than it currently covers. So the pilot project's been run, and we have a budget request that will actually expand that further. I think bottom line is what we're looking for is greater personnel efficiency so that personnel can be used to actually work cases, prepare for trial, administer justice, defend cases, input orders, move through the community supervision, and do a better job with that handling. So ultimately efficiencies are the gain here, but it does come at a price tag. So, other question? Mr. Radley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for my tardiness, and it may have been covered prior to me getting here. How many counties is it currently being used in right now?
6 now?
No, it's 4 right now. Our goal is to move to 20 more. Right there.
Yeah.
The next phase is to move to 20 various, when I say various, metro and rural counties across the state.
So it'd be a total of 20.
Well, the next phase is 20 more,
So it'd be a total of 26.
which is the map is going to be a challenge. But,
24.
24 would be phase 2, and then just gradually working out from there.
Okay. And if I may, the counties that are experiencing it right now are utilizing it, have seen tremendous gains in efficiency, are very much in favor of the program that it's being used in, correct?
That's why the good judge is here.
Well, I would say right now they're just in the infancy. We've successfully got it operational in 4. Right now, Terry can probably answer.
Yeah, we've got 4 counties right now that we're in the process of doing. We've got 12 exchanges that we've identified. The exchange that you saw here was just one of the 12 exchanges. So we're moving it out. This was the most intricate and the most critical exchange because it does the e-filing and involves a lot of partners there. We've got, like I said, many other different exchanges that are a part of this process that we're going to have rolled out either later this year or the beginning of next year, the first quarter of next year, that we'll have all 12 implemented by that time, and that will carry the case from booking all the way to the disposition. That'll update the Georgia Crime Information Center's database, as well as the Department of Corrections, so that they have the information that they need available too. So it's, we're continuing to work on this, and like we said, we've got these 4 pilot counties identified. The 4 pilot county, well, there were 5 initially, and Hall County was included in that, but due to the procurement cycle that Hall County is in with the procurement of a case management system for their courts and for their sheriff's department, they couldn't participate in this initial rollout. They are working towards it, and their vendors are aware of what we're doing in this, and so when they get ready to implement, they will implement this CJEP exchange as part of their thing. But as we move these things out, the people that we've talked to, they've said tremendous gains just from this one exchange that we've done. They see this saving so much time and effort on their part, because they're not having to rekey data, they're not having personnel that are walking documents, having to go pick up documents. It's really been a big benefit to them so far, and like I said, and this is just one exchange that we've seen so far.
Judge, you'll add the mic, because if you're not at the mic, we can't hear you.
Thank you. Realize what they did is they picked 4 different counties. We had 5, but 4 different counties with 4 different case management systems. And the work has been done for this system to talk to those 4 different case management systems. They built the tools, the application interface, APIs is what they're called, for these things to talk to the CJEP system. So now we're ready. The work's been done. Now we've just got to move it to the other counties. Like my county is an ICON county. They're ready. The demonstration you saw was to an ICON database. So they've just got to get us using it and get us signed on, get us trained, and we're ready to go. That's really, the work has been done for at least 4 of our case management systems. And then there'll be a 5th one when Hall County finally comes online. So that's the hardest part. Now the next step is to get the local folks using it and taking advantage of the technology that they've built.
And I'll say a little bit more about that. The counties that we chose were chosen for a reason, because the vendors that are in those counties cover a large majority of the state. And like Judge Emerson said, I think ICON, they probably have 85 courts that they service. So you can see that that's going to be a large footprint that they have out there. So when we roll this out there, it affects a large number of counties. And the beauty of this system too is we didn't change their case management systems. Those systems that they work on every day, they don't have to really learn anything really different. They're already used to managing it. They've just got to go look in a queue, bring up the documents, and they're able to do it. So it's little impact to the process that they currently do. So this has been a big benefit. We're going to have a reduced training cycle because of that, and I think that that's going to be more lead to more adoption of this process.
Another point, the court's already doing e-filing. You know, we're already doing, the clerks of court have staff already, they're just gonna be looking at the same e-filing system to look at the documents. So the courts are ready. The big change will be prosecutors and public defenders, training them in how to use the system, because they don't do any e-filing yet, generally. You know, that'll be the big change, is just saying to the prosecutors, look, you can do this now, or the public defenders, you can do it this way, and make it easier. So that's where the big challenge will be, getting them, you know, I'll be blunt, lawyers don't like change too much, and so we got to get them changing the way they do business. That's the way it happens. That's just people, that's just human.
I'm here today listening to all kinds of change, amazing change.
Yes.
What-
But like I say,
Costly change.
One more follow-up, is that, it's all right. What is the current, once you move into a new county, they've already, you know, the clerk of court's already doing the e-filing, what's kind of the implementation time? How long does that training kind of take to where everybody's kind of familiar with the system, using the system, and able to kind of get familiarized with it?
Micah, all technology is local, bluntly. Technology projects succeed if the local people take it up and do it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm working to get chief judges involved to encourage this to move along, because they're going to be important in that.
Okay.
But, you know, it's just a matter, the training on it is not going to be very long.
Okay.
It's very short. You know, they're just gonna be they're gonna log into a website and transmit a document.
Perfect.
And I'll say that the people who did the video right here, that was not put in their system very long. I don't know, Jim, do you want to speak to how long that had been implemented? They were already using it proficiently. I mean, it was no lead time for training or anything like that. And that was the beauty of this whole thing. They're using the systems that they already use today. They're not having to do anything different. What it's doing is just taking, once they do whatever they do on their system, it's taking it, pushing it out, and sending it on to the next partner in line who needs the information for them. And then the information is being populated automatically. They don't have to rekey anymore, so we don't have keying errors, and we're getting the data quickly. And like Judge Emerson talked about, he talked about an OTN number. That's a number that we use to link that throughout the entire criminal justice system, and a lot of times that was the reason why we weren't getting dispositions at GCIC, because those OTNs were not correct, they were not on the documentation, and the court couldn't update it, it couldn't be sent onward. Judge Emerson, do you want to talk a little bit about how that's going to help y'all's court?
Well, let's find out from Jim how much lead time, because that was a question for Jim, so. Jimmy there?
Yes, yes, I am. Yeah, thank you. It was really only a couple of weeks of each one of the vendors or the prosecuting attorneys council, public defenders council, providing some training, providing some overview of how e-filing would change. And the things that were different, as you saw, were an e-filing button or a link to click on, and then the routine of going back and checking on that status. You know, you saw something was pending, and then it would show as received once it got to the clerk system. That status changes to accepted. So it's kind of tracking that to make sure that that something's been filed and been acted on. I think we're going to see. So I think Judge Emerson is right, and you know that working through the change process. One of the things that we're going to see that'll need some lead time is just agreeing on the details of, you know, what gets entered, what the documents actually look like. And more specifically, I guess, what the data is that's being passed from one system to another. So, you know, we take a few weeks or so just to show in a testing or training system what it looks like, what those case details look like. It takes a while to get used to information being there that somebody else keyed in when you're used to being able to key it in your own way. So I think that's kind of the behavior that'll change, that's kind of the mindset that'll adjust. So, yeah, it's more that mindset, like you all were saying, than it is the routine, the mechanics of how I use my system.
In this implementation, do we know how much time it takes to actually input this data currently, and then by comparison to see what happens to a process? So if you ran it through the system where you had an initial filing and you ran it through the system, does anyone track to that time just to see what the savings would be in time?
Haven't done that yet explicitly. You know, we kind of have that. It'll give you an idea of how much time they're going to save. Well, we'll have to, you know, just sit down and measure that with each of these folks as they adopt it.
Okay. Yeah, just something to.
Yeah.
It would be nice to quantify that, because it makes it easier for us to explain to members of the committee and to the public if we're talking about some numbers that say how much time we're saving, what's their time savings relative to the expenditure. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
Other questions from members of the committee? Okay, well, seeing none, we're almost an hour in, and so what I'd like to do is wrap this up. When we come back in for session in January, we may go back through this presentation again for some of the committee members who didn't make it. I know that 2 of the members told me they would be paying attention online, so we'll see if there's interest in seeing the presentation again. We'll be prepared to do that. That's all right, Joe and Terry, and then that may spur other questions. With that, what I'll do is move to adjourn this meeting, and I want to first say thank you very much to all of you for coming, especially on a Friday afternoon. And I want to thank you for being here in General Assembly at this extraordinary session as we work through some major issues for Southwest Georgia and some issues that pertain to the state as a whole. And I want to thank the individuals that are here today. There's a number of individuals from various organizations that have all worked on this system and have contributed in various ways to try to build up the CJEF system. And I appreciate you all being here today to hear this presentation and to participate. Judge, thank you for your time today. Jim, thank you for calling in. We appreciate this, and Terry, thank you for organizing it. With that, we'll stand adjourned.
That question.